What is MCP Server? Myself, Babaosh, and welcome to Babaosh channel. Today, we'll talk about what is MCP Server. In previous video, we talked about Agentic AI. Then, I think you are curious about how agentic orchestrations or agents communicate with MCP Server. And actually, what is MCP Server? Why it need MCP Server? So all related to these questions we'll discuss in this video. In simple way, MCP server is Model Context Protocol server. It will standardize communication of the context to AI model. It's enable more capable AI interactions. It will manage tool resources and particular session efficiently. So in this diagram, user interact using app, a web, it will pass a prompt for any query and then it will go to particular directly a agent MCP server and how the server interact with the LLM, how LLM interact with the MCP server, how agent can ask question to LLM for interact. MCP server. Okay, we'll take one example. Is agent directly talk to MCP server? Or a model can directly talk to MCP server? How MCP server work? In general term, I will explain what is role of the MCP server. One more questions. That is relation between agent, MCP server and model. How they communicate each other effectively, efficiently, and how if you ask any query and that query also interact to tool also. For example, you want to write a SQL query, you want to fetch some data from the TV, and you are not writing query, you are just putting a prompt. Then how agent understand what need to be asked to model? It then we need some defined protocol that model can understand what need to be generated and what need to be the ask query to DB. So that's why MCP server standardize way of the agent to reach outside the world. Outside the world meaning here if you want to interact with the GB, you want to interact with GitHub, you want to interact with other thing, then it will standardize a protocol where agent and model can communicate. So difference here between agent and model. Agent is a thinker, a planner. Agent is not a tool. MCP server is a tool. It provide tool to communicate to DB, communicate to outside world, communicate to GitHub, communicate to other thing in standardized way. Standard way. So that is the difference between MCP and agent. On another example in flow diagram, you're able to understand. For example, you want to do interact with the DB, then you need a MCP server. MCP server provide you endpoint, provide you a protocol where your agent can communicate to MCP and agent will ask to LLM, okay, I want this information from the DB. Then LLM know how I ask, what need to be asked to the MCP, because MCP already a defined protocol where LLM also generate a query where LLM also know the context how our DB work. So their agreement between LLM understanding and MCP server. MCP server context already know the LLM. That is the benefit where LLM can query easily to do database. It will generate a particular query, a structure where database needed because it's know the context. Even MCP also giving to endpoint what you need to ask to me, and it will MCP server will ask to DB and again response back to the agent, and agent will reply again to the user. Okay, let's take different way in the bigger picture. A user ask to DB. User want to ask to DB. Okay, what is yesterday revenue? Then agent send a task to LLM. Okay, what agent is? Agent plan a task. Agent is a planner, agent is a thinker. Then agent plan a task. Okay, send task to the LLM. LLM create a task. Then LLM create a SQL query to the MCP server. MCP server already know how LLM will ask question. Then MCP server take that query and ask to the DB and reply the returns number of row. That row again come to the agent and it will ask to okay format it how user want it and then it will convert it again based on user required and return. Okay, this 32 lakh is the revenue of the last week. This is the structure where MCP server works. Very simple example. I will take another. One example I take to understand how MCP server work for the DB, like DB MCP server. I will take another example. I think Git every developer know, and you want to automate your Git things. If you want to do some prompting and okay, turn my review, my PR. Okay, what is the merge conflict is there? Please resolve the merge conflict and blah blah blah. How easily using prompt that all things can be resolved. Lot of things we have to do with the Git, and there is very headache. If you want to create a agentic workflow and MCP server, then help my daily routine code management, Java version control system. So for this GitHub MCP server, we'll create a GitHub MCP server. So what MCP server need to be provided to the outside? That model can generate a query and that MCP server can understand it. It will ask to GitHub to do the task, then back to the agent, modify it and do it. So this is the agent and GitHub MCP server and GitHub APIs. So all related API things handled by MCP server. Agent no need to go to directly interact with the GitHub API. Agent will ask MCP server itself. MCP know all the context of all the tooling. GitHub API is the tool for do anything related to GitHub, and it is exposed to the GitHub itself. And then no need to even the one more hidden place, because if any tool needed credential, any tool needed different authentications layer, lot of security reasons also there, and agent is exposed outside, might be hacking issues. MCP server maintain everything, auth and everything handled by the MCP server. It will be secure. So that happen. So GitHub, what listed task need to do for GitHub? List of repos, pull requests, get PR difference, comments, create issues. What are the issues? Is there if the peer review? If the, for example, you want to do a peer review, review your code, agent will review code and reply itself. So these kind of tasks handling by complete agentic workflow plus help for GitHub MCP server and very easily to interact GitHub API by MCP server and return back to the agent. Okay, for understanding it more deeper, I will go different example, step by step flow will go. So for example, this is the peer pull request 247 and do test. If it is fail, then give a comment. That is the task. User ask, okay, do test it for this PR. If it's fail, then give me the reason of the fail. Then first it will come to the agent. Similar to like I already, user will ask, whatever user will ask, will go to agent. And now, then first step, okay, it will create task, okay, review this PR. Second, discover tool from the MCP. Then it will ask, okay, which tools required for ask the query this MCP. Then MCP, we already defined the protocol for this pull request. Okay, get pull request. Okay, I want to need this pull request. Then agent will LLM will generate a query for the MCP, and it will go to MCP. LLM choose this tool. Okay, get pull request this third step, and then agent call MCP server in API style. And fifth step, MCP server receives the query from the agent, and then MCP server already know the context. It will fetch the deleted PR informations, and it will do difference. It will check whatever task needed. It will do that, and then MCP returns, okay, this is the issue. It's related to memory leak issue, whatever issue. Then it will create, and then for this LLM will create a comment. Then again ask to put comment on the GitHub itself also. And MCP server provide a tool for put comment on the GitHub. So this is way how user, agents, LLM, MCP server and our tool. So here are the 5 component. First is the user, second is agent, third is LLM, then MCP server, another is inside the MCP server you want to interact with any tool, DB, GitHubs, whatever. How they are interact each other, communicate each other, what is the role, we understand. So this is all about MCP server. If you have any questions, please put on comment. You want any video, please put on comment. I will create that. Thank you so much.